Very much, Senator Capito. I welcome the witnesses who are here today. We're here to talk about cooperative federalism, two words which have become something of a mantra for EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt. They're among his most trusted talking points, right up there with another favorite catchphrase, back to basics. So what does cooperative federalism really mean, and particularly what does it mean to Administrator Pruitt? Cooperative federalism should mean that EPA and the states work together to reduce pollution. Reducing pollution involves doing scientific analysis, gathering data, writing rules, setting targets, and enforcing the rules and targets. This work can and should be done together by EPA and the states. It used to be. But that's not what Scott Pruitt means by cooperative federalism. To Pruitt, cooperative federalism means having EPA do less to reduce pollution and hand over more of the work to the states, all while proposing fewer financial resources to the states to do this work. And if some states are less interested in reducing pollution or don't have the resources to develop and enforce rules limiting pollution, then so much the better. Because, you see, that is Pruitt's goal here. Cooperative federalism is code for EPA and some states walking away from their core mission of protecting human health and the environment. The proof is that any time a state takes strong action to reduce pollution, Pruitt's EPA either opposes the initiative or slow walks it. Pruitt's version of cooperative federalism is a one-way street towards more pollution. States are encouraged to take the lead in reducing pollution so long as they don't actually try to reduce pollution. Pruitt's recent decision to water down corporate average fuel economy standards, the CAFE standards, is an example of how cooperative federalism under Pruitt really works. These CAFE standards were negotiated in 2012 by EPA, California, and the auto industry. All parties agreed to these standards, which are estimated to save consumers $1.7 trillion at the pump. That's an average of $8,000 over the life of a car purchased in 2025. And, of course, to reduce carbon emissions by 6 billion metric tons. So why did Pruitt decide to roll back those agreed-to CAFE standards? Not because California asked him to, but because industry did. Is it cooperative federalism to ignore the states and do industry's bidding? When you get beyond the rhetoric, Pruitt isn't really interested in cooperating with states. His real interest is in cooperating with corporations, which have bankrolled his entire political career. You might actually call it cooperative corporatism. And now that California and Rhode Island and Delaware and many of the other 10 states and the District of Columbia that follow California emission standards have objected to his decision to water down the CAFE standards, Pruitt has suggested that he may revoke the waiver granted to California under the Clean Air Act that allows it to set its own emission standards. How's that for cooperation? And Pruitt's desire to centralize decision-making in his own hands isn't just limited to the Clean Air Act. He recently announced that all decisions relating to determining whether a project has a significant environmental impact on waterways will be made by him. So much for local control and cooperative federalism. My home state of Rhode Island has a long coastline that is particularly vulnerable to sea level rise. The CAFE standards represent an important part of our efforts to combat climate change, which is responsible for sea level rise. The Clean Power Plan is also critical to reducing the carbon emissions driving climate change. But Pruitt is trying to repeal that too. Do you think he consulted with Rhode Island officials or the officials in any coastal states on repealing the Clean Power Plan? If you need any further proof that Scott Pruitt's cooperative federalism is a one-way street sham, just look at his proposed budget for FY19. He proposes cutting grants to the states for clean air programs by over $160 million. Some programs he eliminates entirely. Rhode Island's Department of Environmental Management receives about $10 million a year in grants from EPA. About $2.4 million of this goes to clean air programs. How does Pruitt expect states to step up and lead on protecting clean air when he tries to cut the money they receive to do this work? The answer is he doesn't. Scott Pruitt's mission at EPA is cooperative corporatism, to serve the interests of the industry that has always backed him. You see this in decision after decision, where state input is ignored, and you see this in industry cronies installed at EPA. Scott Pruitt has sullied the doctrine of cooperative federalism, just as his disregard for EPA's mission has sullied the agency, and his actions stand to sully our environment. I salute states like Rhode Island, California, and Delaware that are working so hard to protect our environment, but we do it better with an effective partner in EPA. It is time for EPA to get serious about protecting the environment and public health. That, after all, is its true mission. Thank you, Madam Chair.